Hello, Falsius Shock, and welcome to episode 13. Yeah, episode 13, looking for some of the short grass, your Kildare Nationalist sports podcast. I'm Pat Costello, and with me, as usual, are Ger McNally and Tommy O'Connell. And don't adjust yourselves, he's back. Yeah, he held the jersey from last week. Seamus Dillon is here, keeping the Suncroft jersey and keeping the Suncroft seat warm. So, good afternoon, good evening, good morning, whatever it is to you lads in your wherever you are. I suppose before we look back at last week and look forward to next week, we have to look a bit maybe towards 2026. And if the John Lewis Christmas ad is out, and it is, therefore the O'Byrne Cup and Walsh Cup fixtures should be out as well, and they are. And straight away, Kildare footballers are away to Wexford on the 3rd of January, and the hurlers are home to Galway on the 4th, the Sunday the 4th. So great to have those competitions back again, Ger.
Absolutely, yeah. Kind of, they took a hiatus last year, and of course, in typical trademark GAA style, it was probably the year that they were needed more than ever, given there was so many rule changes. But yeah, look, I like the O'Byrne Cup. I'm glad to have it back. It's something certainly from a paper point of view. It's nice to have something to fill the pages through the quiet month of January, and it was missed last year. And even just I like to get out again that first weekend of January. It's nice to blow the cobwebs away after hibernating over the Christmas period. So yeah, looking forward to them. And look, obviously the trip to Wexford at that time of year might not be the most appealing, given that it'll probably be played away from Wexford Park. But when you see the hurlers at home to Galway, it just kind of emphasises what a year is in store for Brian Dowling and the Kildare hurlers. And we'll talk about, I'm sure, the Leinster Senior Hurling Championship fixtures confirmed as well, and hinting at the National League fixtures as well. And yeah, it's just going to be a monumental year for the Kildare hurlers, and I'm sure preparations for that are already well underway.
Yeah, of course, Tommy. I suppose those, particularly the O'Byrne Cup, they lost a bit of luster, I suppose, with the way some of the managers behaved a couple of years ago and didn't fulfill fixtures and all this sort of thing. So, but it looks like they've committed to it for 2026.
Yeah, and again, they're not exactly like, people aren't exactly welcome it with open arms. You see a lot of kind of giving out about it, saying, sure, we don't need this, we don't need that. I always loved the O'Byrne Cup. I said this on the podcast before as well, because again, as a fan, in the first week of January, I'm fairly happy to go have a look at a bit of football after Christmas. But you're right, a few years ago it got really messy.
Yeah.
Fixtures weren't fulfilled, teams didn't want to travel. I suppose you have to remember as well, like there's Sigerson going on as well, which obviously affects the league then a few weeks down the line as well. A bit of structure, bit of a different structure in it. They are trying to rattle off what it don't have there is obviously there's a shield for losers. It'll be interesting to see how that goes. I mean, they'll be doing well to get the O'Byrne Cup going, but if you see a Dublin or I don't know, or a Meath or whatever get knocked out, will they fancy coming out the next week and playing a shield? I look at them as good challenge matches for them as well, and that's the way they should look at it, because they're intercounty matches. So yeah, we'll see how it goes.
Some managers I spoke to previously said they prefer to play challenge games, Seamus, because at least they could play as many players as they wanted to. But for these competitions, I think it's down to 26. So I suppose there's pros and cons in it.
Yeah, howdy lads. We're just looking at those fixtures in front of us there, and certainly when you look at it, maybe that the semi-finals are fixed for the 10th of January, and probably the final the following weekend. That's going to be maybe leads to situations whereby county managers might say, okay, we've had enough, and pull the plug, as Tommy has said and alluded to. That has happened in the past. But I think it's a great competition. It was badly missed last year, probably the fact that because of the rules situation, but also the fact that maybe managers do like to get a couple of games under your belt, and they are competitive, and it's a chance to look at new guys coming into the panel. So there is advantages to it, but the fact that it's creeping up on getting towards the end of January for the opening rounds of the league, that could bring its own maybe problems towards the latter end of it.
And you being our hurling expert, Seamus, Kildare at home to Galway at the start of some fantastic games for the hurlers in 2026.
Yeah, look, I suppose it's an exciting time for hurling when you look at National League fixtures, looking down the road to Leinster Championship starting next April. It's going to be a great time for Kildare hurlers, for the management team, Brian Dowling and the backroom team. And the work starts, I think, on the 22nd of November. That's the first official gathering, and big games. They won't get much bigger than Galway coming to Newbridge. If it's going to be Newbridge, quite possibly, maybe it's going to be in man guard, depending on I suppose the condition of pitches at that even at the early stage of the year. But yeah, a lot to look forward to. It's a big year, you know. I think Kildare, if they can consolidate their position in championship and league, that would be the main aim, I'd say, for this year.
And of course, the draft hurling and football league fixtures, they're also out or have escaped, and they're subject to agreement with the counties and I suppose with the broadcast companies as well. Kildare footballers, they have 4 home games and 3 away. Hurlers have 3 home and 3 away. Some exciting fixtures to be looked forward to, Ger, starting with a trip up to Omagh in the first round.
Another venue that Kildare have done well in traditionally, and a Saturday evening trip up to Omagh. Yeah, that's not a hugely appealing one to start off with from a couple of different points of view. But yeah, look, it's the 4 games at home I think is key. And there was a report I think out at the start of last season, and there is a significant advantage for teams who have 4 home games as opposed to those with 3. So yeah, look, we'll be looking at those home games in particular to try and get points. And yeah, look, there's a couple of Leinster Championship games, Leinster Championship teams in there, like Offaly and Meath. Those home games are going to be key, and then obviously rounding off then against Louth. And look, hopefully we're well up away from the bottom 2, and looking towards potentially maybe even squeezing into the top 2 come that last round of the league. Some very difficult away ties there as well, though. Of course, Tyrone, Cavan, and Cork. I mean, they're really tough tests, and as I said, the away game against Tyrone is probably the most difficult game on paper, and in some ways perhaps getting them in the first round of the league maybe is the best time to get them, rather than when they are really kind of up and running fully after a couple of games under their belt. But again, yeah, look, it just emphasises it's a tough test. It's a big jump from Division 3 last year, and Kildare would have to hit the ground running, whatever about maybe a potential I won't say it's a free hit against Tyrone, but anything we get away from Tyrone would be a bonus. But then that home game against Offaly and following on then against Derry, they're going to be huge games. So we need to get results on the board very early on in that division.
Yeah, Tommy, 2 home games in the second and third rounds. That's obviously to be a help, because Kildare have made Cedars and Connaughton Park into a little bit of a fortress again.
Yeah, they surely have. And isn't the crowd started to come back last year as well? It was tough going the year before in Carlow. Like, we were traveling around the country with them, and obviously in Carlow. And I remember the first game, I think it was against Cavan, in Carlow.
That's right.
And there was a good crowd. You know, there was a bit of kind of, you know, as there always will be at the start of the league. But as the matches went on, the results weren't going the way the crowd really. I remember that at Armagh game. Jesus, lads, if you're outnumbered, I know Armagh are absolutely unbelievable travelling support. But when you're outnumbered in what's supposed to be your home game, it was tough going. So this time now, you know, it's really time for everybody to get behind them again after such an exciting year this year, just going into that. I mean, that's our own game. So immediately all the WhatsApp groups were lighting up, because we look at the away fixtures, you know, where are we staying? Where are we going? You know, last year we had overnight stays in Sligo and Clare, great crack. So this year, I think Omagh and Cork look like the venues. Cavan doesn't seem too appealing to too many of the travelling fans for an overnighter. Sorry about that, Pat.
Yeah, well, Cavan are claiming that this is a no-brainer for them, that they need 2 points, but I think that's one where
soft touch, Pat. Soft touch, aren't we?
Yeah, that's it. Flano will have that little piece on the dressing room door. Seamus probably finishing then with Cork in the middle, of course, but 2 home games, one against Meath and one against Louth in the 5th and 6th, so 6th and 7th rounds. So it's good to have 2 home games near the end of the league as well, if you're looking for survival or indeed looking to get up there and maybe qualify for a final.
Yeah, I think the 2 big ones there are Meath and Louth at home, that you know, Brian Flanagan will be hoping to pick up 4 points. And I suppose even going back to looking at the opening 3 rounds, they'll be setting out their stall to be getting a minimum of 4 points out of those opening 3 games. But again, tough opposition down Tyrone and Derry. But yeah, the last couple of matches there, you know, just depending on what way Cork are going in the league, that can be a tough place to go to. And you'd be hoping that it'll be in Kildare's hands heading towards the latter stages of the league, not to be in the relegation zone. I just think that you know, we can build on last year and pick up some early points. I think that's the key to any National League campaign that we've seen over the last number of years. You can get up and running early, get a few points on the board. It breeds a bit of confidence, and I think that'll lead you into the closing 3 rounds, hopefully in a good state of health.
It's always said, Ger, that Division 2 is the most difficult division of all the leagues.
Yeah, and I was just thinking that generally you'd have maybe one team that you could pinpoint as going to be a struggler, but there's nothing easy at all there, and it's hard to pick out any team that's going to be down with finishing up with one win out of 7, or maybe 2 wins out of 7. It's going to be really tough, and it's going to be very tight, I'd imagine. Offaly obviously coming up alongside ourselves, that they showed what a good side they are as well last year, so there'll be no pushover for anybody, and those teams that are established in Division 2, and as well as the teams coming down from Division 1, there's absolutely nothing there, but every point is going to be hard fought for, and a lot of those games are going to be down to the last kind of 5 minutes or so, and maybe down to the last kick of the ball even. So it's going to be absolutely crucial to get points early on the board. Those kind of, as Seamus said there, the first 3 games, they're going to be huge, because you certainly don't want to be chasing your tail then in the final rounds and looking for scores. If you can get a couple of wins on the board early on, that would really set us in good stead. But yeah, lots to look forward to. Certainly, it's a lot more appealing than being Division 3. There's no doubt about that.
Absolutely.
And
Ger is interesting as well, that, as you say, like there isn't the usual kind of 1 or 2 teams you might think they'll end up in relegation zone. So every team is just quite even. But like as a Kildare fan, I'm looking at it, and I'm including the Tyrone match. I mean, there's not one match there that I'm looking at that I'm thinking, no chance of getting anything out of that. You have to be confident. It's always difficult going to Cork, obviously. Like Derry aren't exactly flying over the last 12 months. We owed them one as well. They gave us a trimming the last time they came to Newbridge. There's a really good chance there, to build a good base for the league, and staying up as well is obviously really important. But remember, was it Division 1? Did we get relegated with 5 points?
Yeah.
Two wins and a draw. You saw last year Division 1, the live Division 1 table, to the last 10 minutes of the final game. At one stage, Mayo were getting relegated, and they ended up in a league final. So these leagues are mad. So I can't wait for it. It'll be brilliant.
Finishing 6th could be huge as well in terms of the Tailteann Cup. I mean, you could finish 6th and finish 6th, avoid relegation, and still miss out on the All Ireland series, depending on what ways things went. Obviously, Salisbury we're Tailteann Cup champions, so that won't bother us. Maybe we'll bother other teams in around there as well, because it makes that extra competitiveness, because every place in the Division 2 is huge.
Absolutely. Well, as I said, they are draft fixtures at the moment, and I'm sure they'll be finalised before Christmas, and then we can really get excited about it. In the hurling league, Seamus, away to Dublin in the first round, then a home to Antrim, home to Clare, away to Downholm. I don't know how that happens every time, and home to Carlow. That'll be an exciting one as well, and then away to Wexford. Really thrilling games to look forward to for the hurlers.
Yeah, absolutely. I think somebody who draws down versus Kildare for, I think, is that the 3rd time in 4 years that Kildare will have to go to Ballycran. But there's always the argument of playing them in Newry, but I don't think it'll ever happen. No. Maybe it's Division 1 now, but I don't think so. But look at Kildare starting off against Dublin. It's I suppose a replay of that All-Ireland quarter-final last year, and Kildare will probably feel, and did on that particular day, that I suppose they didn't have enough time, didn't get a chance to prepare the way they would have liked to. But you're certainly going into the lines then when you're taking on Dublin in the opening round, and they've made Parnell a bit of a fortress for themselves, up there. But the next 2 games, Antrim will be something that Kildare will be looking at as trying to pick up their opening 2 points in the league, and don't tend to just get bigger and bigger. But looking down along the line, it's a decent league campaign. Carlow, Clare, and even travelling up to Ballycran, Kildare will fancy their chances there. I think maybe they've broken that hoodoo of beating down, and I think Kildare are heading in the right direction compared to maybe the likes of Down. Carlow are probably, there was maybe questions about them last year, but Kildare got the win when they needed it. So look at good fixtures, really good test before you go into championship. But they'll be hoping to consolidate their place in that Division 1B for the following year.
Absolutely, and as I said, those are draft fixtures as well. Won't be finalised until sometime early in December. But fixtures that we know are confirmed are the Leinster Senior Hurling Championship, Kildare versus Wexford in round 1, versus Dublin in round 2, Galway in round 3, and then Kilkenny, that's away, I think, and Offaly, I think that's at home. So again, mouth-watering fixtures there for the hurlers.
Yeah, absolutely. And when you see Clare potentially there coming in the league and then starting off the Leinster Championship at home to Wexford, home to Galway as well. I mean, they're just massive games that we've dreamt about Kildare competing in the hurling championship for so long. So really hope that the Kildare supporters get out and give this team support, because as exciting as these ties are, they're massive tests. I mean, we saw, albeit of course a very quick turnaround after the McDonagh Cup, but we saw how physically imposing that Dublin side were in Newbridge, and even Kildare at their very best would have struggled that evening against Dublin. And I mean, they're massive tests, and every supporter who gets through the gate and kind of lends their voice to the cause will certainly help Kildare. But certainly the home games take the eye, but then that away trip to Kilkenny as well, to see a Kildare team play a championship match down in Nolan Park is going to be something special. Again, a massive test, and obviously something that will be very special for Brian Dowling, bringing a Kildare team down to the home of hurling there in Kilkenny. But yeah, what a day that's going to be for Kildare hurling, and just hope that Kildare can give a good account of themselves in these games, and I'm sure they can. And look, again, as the McDonagh Cup a couple of years ago, if all go wrong, I think that last game against Offaly could be a massive one as well. That's a winnable game, no matter how Kildare have done in the previous rounds. Those 4 games are really tough tests against 4 outstanding opponents, and Kildare could play absolutely brilliantly and lose all 4 of those games. But the one then against Offaly, potentially a relegation decider in the final round, could be a huge match then, and that's a very winnable one for Kildare, albeit against a good Offaly side.
It's a pity, Tommy, that room couldn't be found for a double header or 2.
Yeah, it is what it is. That's the way the fixtures fall, and it's very difficult for any county to get these double headers. You might see it the odd time. We saw it in Limerick a few years ago. I remember going down. Kildare were playing Limerick on a Saturday evening, and the hurlers were on before, and the hurlers I think were playing Wexford. And I remember the Kildare fans, we were fighting our way through the thousands of fans that were leaving Limerick that had no interest in watching their footballers and getting into the stand. And I remember buying a program on the way in, and I was fucking raging. I was raging. There was about 2,000 of them strewn around the stand when I got in to the football match. But listen, obviously double header we saw last year, how exciting it was, and it was brilliant. But I mean, I messaged you guys the other night and just saying, like, when I was making up that graphic the other night, I was just like, wow, like Wexford, Dublin, Galway, Kilkenny, Offaly. Like, it really is, like, it's dreamland. It's the kind of stuff, like, if all those Kildare lads would have grown up just really wanting. They would have watched the Kildare teams in Division 2, Division 2B, fighting for Christy Ring Cups. And then to think the work that they've put in and that the clubs have put in to get their lads there to play against the likes of these teams. As between the league and the championship next year, I mean, we have something else coming up. Like, it's going to be fantastic.
Yeah, and of course, Seamus, the ladies team as well. They're playing in Division 1. Some exciting teams some exciting games to look forward to there as well. We haven't seen the fixtures as yet, but it'll be an interesting time for the women's team as well.
Yeah, look at last year's win over Dublin in Hawkfield and Meath up in Abbottstown on a horrible wet afternoon. I'm not sure if you were there that afternoon, Tommy. It was just rain that came in bucketfuls. But anyhow,
did you ever dry out? Did you ever dry out after that, James?
There is a story behind that, Pat. Not for this program, but anyhow, you'd certainly say that there's something to build on with those 2 successes last year, and Kildare not too far off being in that top 4 come the league table and come championship in Leinster as well. Look at her; they could be there in the Leinster final come next year. Dublin have had, there's players retiring, so there's a lot of work going on in Dublin as well. So look at, in saying that, look at it. It's Kildare ladies football is in a great position at the moment, and look at, if you turn the clock back and have a think of if we were looking forward to 2026 to see where Kildare footballers, hurlers, and ladies teams are. Sure, some would say you were mad if you were predicting that type of stuff, but I think it's wonderful, really great to see.
Yeah, and let's hope Rob O'Neill, the new Kildare Camogie manager, gets a full squad so that he can get a good run at the league in Camogie as well. All right, that's 2026 dealt with already, and we haven't finished 2025. But what a weekend we had last weekend with the 4 Kildare teams in action and 4 Kildare teams advancing in Leinster. Ger, you were in Aughrim for the match between Athy and Baltinglass. A big win for Athy. They really came out fighting in that one. Played against the wind in the first half and knew what they were doing.
Yeah, it was an outstanding performance, and they probably had the game won in the first half, given the strength of the wind that they were playing into, and to have a lead at half time. Yeah, that the game was certainly, it was almost up at that stage for Baltinglass. It was going to need something spectacular for them in the second half, and they never really looked like it. And any thoughts they might have had of getting back into the game were probably ended inside the opening minute or two of the second half when David Hyland launched a monster of a 2-point over the bar. So, yeah, really, really good from the tie. And I suppose the Leinster Championship can be as much about attitude and application and how you kind of see the championship. Is it a bit of a nuisance kind of in the way your celebrations after your main thing of winning a county title, or is it something that you really see an opportunity in? And I think the tie absolutely answered in the affirmative of how they view this Leinster Championship, and that they see the chances that are there for them, and they were spectacular. And for a youngster like Ronan Kelly to get 2-2 on his Leinster Championship debut and then head back into school the next day, like, it's incredible for a young man like that to score a couple of goals like that. And a real proper goal poacher's goal. The first one, maybe was it inside the square, maybe not. He got the benefit of doubt of that one, but it was a proper goal poacher's instincts that he was there just to pound the ball in after it came back off the keeper. And the second one then was a really well worked move, and the veteran nearly of the old the forward line, Colin Moran, who was left school last year, he teed him up with a nice ball across the edge of the square, and Kelly put it in. But the third goal was spectacular as well. I mean, the pace in the Athy counter attack, and as soon as I think it was Colin McCarran released Conor Doyle past the first wave of the Baltinglass press, you knew there were serious problems for them. And spoke to James McGrath afterwards, and kind of he was saying the same, that they recognised the opportunity that was there when the ball was still inside the Athy half, and he was communicating with David Hyland to get their runs in order, and it was a beautiful pass, weighted pass by Conor Doyle inside to James McGrath. He's done as he has done on a number of occasions in a Kildare jersey this year, and showed a real keen finishing touch when in front of goal, and any forward would be proud of the selection of goals that he scored this year. So, yeah, it was.
I think Cathal McCarran is probably having his best season for Athy, not only as a defender but as an attacker as well.
Yeah, like he's I think, as I said, before the county final was the best I ever saw him in an Athy jersey, and he carried that form in. And it's important to have the likes of him, David Hyland, and Kevin Feely there to add that experience, because there is a real youthful feel to that Athy team elsewhere. But any team who's just got those underage players or that kind of early 20s and late teens kind of players, that they need the strong-handed leadership to show them, and you can't have too many better people than McCarran at centre back, and then Hyland and Feely, which is, that's a county, that's an inter-county midfield pairing that remind for one for the club championship. So I have a lot of boxes to tick there, I should say, as a potential championship contender. But the only flip side of that is, I think that the next test against Summerhill will be an altogether stiffer one, and we get a real idea of how far Athy can go potentially in Leinster if they can produce that same sort of performance against Summerhill in 2 weeks.
Yeah, that match is in Seedless in Connah's Park. We understand it could be around 5:15 or so. We understand it could be on RTE, but at the moment the fixture is in Seedless in Connah's Park on the Saturday. That's a mouth-watering one, Athy versus Summerhill. And anytime you have a Kildare Meath clash, well, you can look forward to that. Seamus, it was a little bit easier for Salons in their match against Grange in the Leinster Intermediate Football Championship. The big win for them.
Yeah, to say the least, Pat. 4-11 to a point at half time tells its own story. But Salons would have had harder training sessions over the course of the year. Teams getting to within 10 points of them throughout the Kildare Championship, but this was just so one-sided. It was unbelievable. And Grange, I think we had 1 point in the first half, few scores in the second half, consolation. But the strength and depth of the Salons panel came to the fore. I think they actually probably ended up with 7 subs. Stand to be corrected on that, because I think they brought in 5, but they had 2 blood substitutions as well. I think Colin Dalton's one, but no, those 2 players weren't taken off as far as I can remember. So that was it. But look, I mean, Salons are heading in the right direction. Tough game heading to Navan the next day to play Kilbride, but an all-known form and what Salons are producing at the moment. And just when we were talking earlier on about the 2026, and the likes of Colin Dalton, should Salons progress past Leinster, his participation with Kildare could become hindered. And I think that's a massive thing, because if you look at Colin Dalton, and someone like myself who was a forward, or you like watching people, but if you want to bring a young lad to a football match and show him how you play as a forward, Colin Dalton is just absolutely unbelievable. But he had plenty of help on Saturday afternoon, and as easy as it was, Stephen Kelly with 3 goals and a point. James Dalton, I think, with a goal and a point. So there was some great performances, and Darragh Mangan's pass for James Dalton's goal was just a brilliant defence split and just a little punt off the outside of the left foot, and really good score. But yeah, look, Salons are motoring along well. It's going to take a good team to beat them. I think they'll get their stiffest test in 2 weeks' time when they have to go to Navan, and I think if they can overcome that, they're rightly placed for a go at Leinster.
Certainly are, yeah. Got some matches against Kilbride, and again, as I say, any match involving Kildare Meath is one to look forward to. Another Grange involved, this time the Kildare Grange in the Junior Football Championship. They probably had to wipe their feet a little bit before they actually got over the line in this one, Tommy. Was it all about one man and his appearance in the second half?
It was a huge introduction, for O'Connell. We heard beforehand that he was injured, and that if he was needed, the exact words were, if he was needed, he'd be called upon. But the first half was so difficult for them because it's so great. Or the Leinster is so unknown, especially the junior. You saw Clockbawn of Wexford beating the Dublin champions. Like, I don't know whether people would have expected that or not, but because you don't know what the levels are. And Dublin junior football teams for the last couple of years haven't really been up to scratch when they come into this competition. And those Wexford boys obviously didn't hold back anyway. So that'll be a tough match for Grange. But getting back to them, they at St. Bridget's side, I was looking at in the first half, and I was with a couple of lads there, and I was just saying that this is the kind of a team that you didn't want Grange meeting. They had a couple of grizzly old lads on the team that were hitting them, they were throwing themselves around. They were a good side, St. Bridget's. They had some really nice footballers, but they had those big lads. Alan Scally, I think his name is one, and there was a couple of others around the middle. Big, strong men, really intelligent footballers. And they were spreading the ball around, keeping the ball away from the Grange danger men running from the back. I was worried at halftime. I think Grange were 5 points down. And I was thinking, they can't miss as much as they did in that half. And I'm just looking at it, wondering what will happen. Then I heard O'Connell coming in because there's no announcement.
Well, of course, next round is a home game for Grange, and that's against Clockbawn. That's on Saturday week as well at a Kildare venue. Not sure where that will be. Will it be in Cedar St. Conleth's Park, or will it be in Mangard Park? But just have to say, Mangard Park, I saw it yesterday as I passed along to pitch 3. Pitch 1 looked in excellent condition. I think you said the same, but last night, Tommy.
Yeah, it was absolutely fantastic. I was right down. I was behind the goals, but you're obviously close enough to the pitch. And I was admiring. I was saying it to a couple of people around me. I said, lads, to keep this place, it's such good nick. And there was a man there with me, and he walks his dog there every day, and he always sees them working on the pitch. Working on the pitch and making sure everything is in good order. See, the Naas hurlers were training there last night. The Salons footballers were training there last night. So it's great that Kildare are opening up the facilities as well to the clubs to go in and maybe use the gym, use the pitches. That was great to see. So Grange, if they do end up out in the Hawkfield, they might not. It might be that early throw in. It's kind of hard to know in St. Conleth's Park because, Pat, as you said, the match might be on RTE, the other game. So we'll have a look. But listen, Grange getting over the line, that was the most important thing last Saturday. They really did. Like, O'Connell was brilliant when he came in, but the rest of them raised their game, and in the end it looked like they were fitter than St. Bridget's, which I think was very, very telling. And they started taking their points. They started trusting their game that won them a county championship. Those penetrating runs, and St. Bridget's couldn't live with them. They scored 1-12 to a point in the second half, Grange, after being 5 points down at halftime. That says it all. So that'll give them great confidence.
Interesting. If you want to complicate things, Ger, you might as well complicate them. And that certainly seemed to be a very convoluted ending to the Leinster Intermediate Camogie Championship match between Naas and who were they playing?
O'Connell.
Yeah, O'Connell. That's right. In Wicklow, 2 periods of extra time after normal time found them level, and then they go to 45s. 2 periods of extra time. That's a bit taking the mickey, as you might say.
Yeah, well, it was going on that long. I was halfway up the mountain there. I was tempted just to kind of maybe sleep at the side of the road there and head up to Auckland down on the Sunday because it was nearly the guts of 3 hours nearly for the game. And yeah, I mean, a second period of extra time, what is the point of that, really? There wasn't actually a score in it, so it literally was pointless on Saturday afternoon anyway. Those extra 10 minutes, and all it did was kind of girls who had already pushed their bodies to the limit were asking even more of them. And incredibly, Knocknana actually had a number of footballers involved for Tinnahealy who, after playing 90 minutes of camogie on Saturday, they went out and won a Leinster semi-final less than 24 hours later. So incredible for them. And particularly, I think Ciara Byrne, who was outstanding for the Knocknana camogie side, and she got a goal or two, I think, as well for the Tinnahealy footballers the next day. So full credit to them. That was an incredible thing. And yeah, just that second period of extra time was a bit of a nonsense, really. You know, just go straight to the 45s. That's the way it's going to be settled. But aside from all that, yeah, it was excellent for Naas Camogie. I mean, what a really gritty, gutsy, determined performance it was, because Knocknana were a fine side. They won an All-Ireland junior title last year, and as I said, they have senior footballers in their squad, so they're a very fit side, physical side, and there was a lot of hard hitting in it, and Naas picked up a couple of injuries. They played up the hill and into the wind in the first half, and just about kept in touch. They were 5 down, I think, at the halftime break, and got a couple of goals then in the second half, and really a wonderful goal by Aoife Steins after the first by Cueva Mar. But it was really tense in the final couple of minutes, and Knocknana got a couple of late scores at the end of normal time to send it into extra time, and then Knocknana scored the first 2 points in extra time. Excuse me, it looked like they were taking charge of it, but Naas just stuck in there, and Rebecca McDermott was superb on the day. She scored, I think it was 1-7 or 1-8, and she was excellent as well. So yeah, no, really good all-round performance, and it was Rebecca who actually held her nerve. She was on one leg by the end of the game, and she struck the first 45. She had to be nearly carted over to take the 45, and she just about steadied herself and knocked it over the bar. And after none of the Knocknana players could find the mark, fullback Anya Conway wrapped up the win for Naas. So yeah, they go forward to Camross now on Saturday in a Leinster semi-final, and I suppose it's about getting the bodies right after that. That was such a tough physical test, and as I said, they picked up a couple of injuries. Ali McGrath and particularly Rocha Hennessy, the midfielder, didn't look like a great injury at all. So hopefully she can recover and take her place in the team, because I suppose you need to be at full strength going into the latter stages of these Leinster Championships. But I suppose that's half the battle it is, that to try and keep the bodies right and keep the injuries away and keep the things as fresh as you can, because it's just such a hard slog on the bodies, and particularly when you're playing 90 minutes like that. Yeah, it was a really tough one for the Naas girls, but a great one for them to come through.
Yeah, indeed. So 4 Kildare teams successful last weekend. 4 Kildare teams are out this weekend, starting at 1:30 on Saturday, and up in Dowdeshill, where Naomh Winniana play Clane in the Leinster Junior Championship. And Seamus, Clane were outstanding winners. That was a great game between Clane and Leixlip in the Kildare Intermediate, the B Championship there a few weeks ago. You would fancy Clane to win this one?
Yeah, I spoke to Clane goalkeeper and Clane forward, a Kildare goalkeeper, Paddy McKenna, yesterday, just in relation to the game, and just wondering had they, had a chance to maybe have a look. And the only video they had was the Louth County final when they won, which was back in August. Big physical team, a lot of them footballers as well. They expect them to be really fit, and they're expecting a tough battle. But I think if Clane can produce what they've done in the Kildare Championship, some good wins, they'll be hoping to get back to Newbridge for the next round. But it's tough game for them.
Absolutely, and then of course 2 p.m. on Saturday, you mentioned it there, Camross host Naas in the Leinster semi-final. That's the Camogie semi-final.
Yeah, as I said, half the battle is just how the bodies have recovered after that. I mean, they probably weren't able to do much, I imagine, even on Tuesday night, and it's probably just a matter of kind of loosening out. And as I said, hopefully those couple of injuries clear up, and they certainly would like them to be back to take their place in the starting lineup. Camross had a good win last week themselves, so there'll be obviously a tough tie, and the second one on the road as well makes it difficult as well. Home advantage can be a big thing in these Leinster Championships when they're available. So yeah, tough test in store for Naas, but after overcoming that one against Knocknana, they feel they're able to take on anything at the moment, I'm sure. So hopefully they'll be able to pull it through again.
And then
I think there's too much, Pat, between a lot of these camogie teams. Did you ever notice where there's only 4 in the senior championship? I think. I think there's only 4 teams in the senior camogie championship, and then there's 5 in this intermediate championship. And there's something like you have to win it 3 times in a row to go to senior. I think.
Yeah, I think Camross were beaten in the final last year, the Leach final last year, by St. Bridget's, who Naas
who beat
played in the Leinster final and were very unlucky. Probably could have forced a draw or extra time or something like that in that particular one. But it's Laois Camogie is very, very strong, and we saw them play Kildare in the league earlier this year, and they look quite strong indeed. So it'll be a tough battle, but I think Naas might just have enough to see them through. And just when we're on that, Tommy, Ballina, they play St. Feckin's in the famous ground of Cornistown, Kinnigan. What a lovely ground that is. But that's at 3 o'clock on Saturday in the Leinster LGFA semi-final. Ballina rather, probably would be favourites for this one, Tommy.
Yeah, probably. In fairness, Kildare clubs, we always have a club kind of standing up every year, don't we? That gives us that bit of excitement going into November. But they probably will be listened. They'll be under no illusions. Like, I mean, they understand. They probably know a lot of those players as well. Obviously, we know the management does, but they to travel up to, like that in a final. You know, it's class for that region, because it's such, like, we know the catchment area up there, and it just is, and all the Rachel and all the media promotions this week as well, and the publicity that it gets. Nice time as well, 3 o'clock on a Saturday. Especially people like that might want to travel from different parts of the county. See a lot of these matches sometimes can be pushed a little bit early, and it can kind of get annoying. But hopefully a crowd heads up.
Yeah, it's a double header. It's a double header because the junior final is on as well. Muckalee of Kilkenny, I can't remember who they're playing, but that's a double header. So get in there and get your program bought early, Tommy.
Yeah, it's great. It's brilliant for them. In fairness, I'm hoping to go. I'm not entirely sure if I can or not, so I might edit this bit out, Pat. I know I won't. We don't do any editing in this podcast, Pat. I will say one thing, Pat, about just that graphic on the screen. That I'm pretty sure Ballina did that. The PRO. It appeared on their page, because I know Leinster have a separate one, so I'm pretty sure they did it. So I just want to say fair play, because when I see clubs, and most clubs are these days, when they're making the effort, to do something like that, you can see how slick that is for their final, for their girls. It is great to see clubs absolutely pushing and making an effort, and that's a really, really slick looking thing there. So fair play to them.
Well, as I said earlier, Rachel Cribben, an outstanding captain for Ballina, and of course Aisling Holton, former Kildare captain, was in 2016 when they won the All-Ireland Intermediate. She's back again and looks very, very sharp indeed. So I'm looking forward to covering that one for the Kildare Nationalist, and I'm sure if I see you there, Tommy, I'll give you a wave as well. So the big one then is on Sunday, 1:30 in Netwatch Cullen Park. Mount Leinster Rangers, the champions of Carlow, versus Naas, the champions of Kildare. You'll be looking forward to that one. I think you're covering it for KFM, Seamus.
Yes, Pat. Massive game for Naas. Last year they went down in the opening round. I think the advantage of getting over a game in the opening round is massive, and Mount Leinster Rangers are probably as big a team as you're going to get in an opening round. To go back a couple of years ago when Naas beat Shamrocks from Offaly, which was in Mountgarret Park, but that allowed them to go on to Crow Park to play Ballyhale. And if everybody can remember, that was a wonderful performance.
Absolutely, could have won.
Yeah, Ballyhale goalkeeper made saves that I don't think he's made before or since. But that's massive that if you can, get over that opening round. And I know Mount Leinster Rangers are probably coming into the game. Gerald be better qualified to speak about Mount Leinster, but in the fact that they're probably coming in off maybe the guts of an 8 or 9 week gap since they played the Carlow final. But Naas have had their gap as well. It'll be 5 weeks, possibly 6 weeks since the Kildare final. And that brings its own problems. I know there have been challenge matches going on. Mount Leinster Rangers have played Slough-Neil and St. Thomas's, I think, in Galway. And so they've been working away. And I know Naas had played those games earlier in the year. So, yeah, between league and championship. So, yeah, it's a big game for both sides. But you'd be hoping that Naas can come through. I think, it's a massive game for Naas in the sense that, they need to maybe move on in Leinster and trying to, get a championship. And you see what Nafina did. We were unlucky against them down in Portlaoise a couple of years ago. Nafina stepped it up again to win the Ireland last year. So Naas are not too far away, but Mount Leinster Rangers have plenty of good hurlers, and I think that maybe 11 of the Carlow senior hurling panel on that team as well. So it brings its own problems. But hopefully, like there are rumours going around that there probably are a couple of maybe injuries in the Naas camp at the moment. Simon Lacey wasn't on the field last night; he was in the gym. So Conan Byrne and James Burke are still out. So I did hear a mention of maybe one of the Sheridans. So I don't know which or what that is. But look at it. Big game Sunday, big game in Naas this season and their future. So hopefully they can pick up the win.
And interesting connections between the management team with Naas management team and Mount Leinster Rangers, Ger, Tom O'Malley and Christy Keeley.
Yeah, very, very interesting, and it certainly adds another element to the game. Tom himself would have enjoyed great success as manager of Mount Leinster Rangers more than a decade ago, and that's where that partnership with himself and Christy Keeley was struck up. And Tom at that stage led Mount Leinster Rangers to Leinster and All Ireland intermediate title, and then a couple of years later they won a Leinster senior title and went all the way to the All Ireland final, where Joe Canning and Portumna just proved too much on the day in Croke Park, but he had wonderful memories there. And as I said, it struck up a partnership with Christy Keeley that has lasted right to the present day. They obviously have had great success as the Carlow management team as well over the last number of years when they've been double jobbing alongside their roles with Naas as well. But it'll have an even more significance for Christy Keeley, who is a very staunch Mount Leinster Rangers man. His son, Evan, is involved in the Mount Leinster Rangers squad and maybe not a starting player, but certainly will feature at some stage. He'll definitely get game time at some stage and maybe even could start as well. He's a very good, young, talented hurler as well. So, that definitely has a bit of an extra interest in it. And it will be interesting to see how kind of if that emotional pull has any impact on the game. But like, it's a tough test for Naas. It really is a tough test. And then this is a strong Mount Leinster Rangers side. Chris Nolan, I'm sure anybody who's been following any sort of Leinster hurling will know him. He's just an outstanding hurler, was involved with Irish shinty teams over the years, and he's a player who could take his place in any team in the country. Kevin MacDonald as centre back is a really classy operator as well, and Fia Fitzpatrick as well. And then further forward, they have a youngster, Donald Murphy, who was a All-Ireland Schools winner in St. Kieran's a couple of years ago, so I'm sure Brian Dowling would have known all about him as well, so he could pass on a few tips as well. And they have Ted Joyce as well as another nippy forward too. So they have a lot of outstanding players, but I mean, you could say the exact same for Naas. They have all those players too. And the only worry is what Seamus said there about injuries. The injury certainly would harm anybody. Richie Hogan is another one as well, who maybe, hopefully, after maybe an extra month, possibly he'll be back close to fit enough to start, because he just got a couple of seconds at the end of the county final. But I think that was more or less just to get him on the field and get him up then lifting the trophy as well alongside Brian Bourne. So it'll be interesting to see if he can take his place. He'd be a big help out in the defensive as well. So yeah, there would be a concern about those Naas injuries and how much it's going to impact them. And you'd want to see them pushing on. Kind of, they've been so dominant in Kildare. They've had so many opportunities at Leinster to grow in Leinster through the intermediate ranks and on to senior. And as Seamus said there as well, we're so close against Nafina. Probably a little disappointing last year to go out so early against St. Martin's as well. And certainly it will be a big blow if they were to lose in the first round here as well. So big day ahead for Naas on Sunday.
Yeah, and Tommy, there might be a concern about playing away from home, but the Netwatch Cullen Park would be very familiar to the Naas players, those who were involved, probably around 12 of them, with Kildare, so they know this Netwatch Cullen Park very well.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, that's it. When I saw that fixture come out, I was just thinking it could be worse. He could be going anywhere. Kildare put in some really good performances on that pitch. Yeah, I know it is familiarity in its grounds and stuff, but ultimately it shouldn't really matter. I think what Seamus said, and then Ger followed on by saying there as well about I know it's strange that we look back 2 years ago more than we look back a year, but losing to Nafina a couple of years ago, and then watching Nafina going on, and Nafina only lost the final by a point, the Leinster final by a point, then went on and won the All-Ireland. And Naas really weren't that far away from them that day. And St. Martin's last year, Naas will say themselves, they can tell you themselves that they were quite poor. It was disappointing. Like, it was a big step up in standard against those Wexford lads. Like, you could see, I mean, Naas hadn't met anything like that since the previous year. But again, they didn't do it on the day for it. And you're kind of thinking, they weren't fantastic in the county final either. So there's a little bit of, they need to get themselves up for this game. This is a huge game. They need to come in. They need to have full focus. They need to lorry into these lads. These Mount Leinster Rangers boys, as we've known for years, they're tough men. And Ger's named out a few lads there. I'd say they'll be chomping at the bit to get their hands on this. To set down their own stall. So things need to go right for Naas. Naas need to be really sharp at the weekend. I'm really hoping they are.
Yeah, Seamus, would you call it?
Yeah, sorry, Pat. Yeah, I'd certainly be just giving the nod to Naas and the fact that I think they're, probably having been their county final only 5 or 6 weeks ago. I think there'll be a hunger in Naas that maybe we haven't seen. I saw it early on in the year against Kildare in the opening round of the championship to sort of lay down a marker, and then whether they pulled away or what happened after that, but it was a little bit different. But certainly going forward, I think it's a big game for Naas, but I can see them getting over the line.
Absolutely. And Ger, do you want to sit on the fence?
Look, we go to Naas way. I think they have the experience of playing at this level over the last couple of years. And the Rangers have it themselves. They pushed Ballyhale fairly well a couple of years ago as well too. But if Jack Sheridan can get firing, it's important that he obviously has a good day in the forward line and those around him as well, because they can't just be left to him as well. But yeah, hopefully Naas can emerge with a narrow win here.
And finally to you, Tommy, one word.
Naas.
Okay, that's I was expecting you to say. And you can read all about those last weekend's matches in the Kildare Nationalist of this week, and indeed for the Kildare Nationalist next week as well. The match on Sunday, Mount Leinster Rangers versus Naas, that's on Clubber TV and on KFM. And as far as I know, the Winning a Claim game is also on Clubber TV and probably on KFM as well, Seamus.
Yes, Pat. Yeah, it's on full live commentary on KFM on Sunday afternoon.
Yeah, and the women's match and the Camogie match, they'll be covered in the Kildare Nationalist next weekend. Seamus, before I go, I neglected to mention a very good game that was on last weekend, the minor hurling final, Maynooth and Selbridge, and Maynooth won that one.
Yeah, 4-13 to 3-18. Really, really wonderful game. And, I suppose I resigned myself to the fact, well, I won't go to Auckland, but I was looking forward to going to Mangard Park to see that game. Again, the first thing you'd say about Mangard Park, tremendous condition for hurling, especially at this time of the year. But, the likes of Tom Power, Oran Byrne, Kieran Dunn, Killian Madden, who was in goals for the hurlers, all members of the Maynooth minor football team who had lost the final, and also members of apart from Tom Power, but there was a few of them who were members of the Maynooth senior, Tom Power was the Maynooth senior hurling team who had lost the county final. So some of those guys were heading into their third county final of the year and haven't lost two. You were delighted for them, but it was a game that they were level on 9 occasions throughout the game. So just tell you how close it was. But Selbridge got 4 points in front with 6 minutes to go. But Oran Byrne let the shoulders back. He was just immense over those closing minutes, and Maynooth came out on top. And Tom Power, they got a point in front, but Tom Power sealed it with a little free. But yeah, really good game, and some good hurlers on view, both sides.
Okay, just before then we finish on GAA and LGFA and Camogie. Jerry, you spoke with Damien McGrath, the manager of the Naas Camogie team. He was looking for respect for the players. Could you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, look, obviously we spoke last week about the fallout from the county final in Kildare, also involving the ladies football final as well. We spoke at length on that in last week's podcast, and obviously the chance to speak to Damien after the Naas Camogie match on Saturday, I did raise the point, and he said initially, the girls didn't really, take much notice of what had happened at the time. He said they were just so enthralled with celebrating on the pitch, and it was only really afterwards when they looked at the video that they saw what happened. But yeah, he said it was very important that the girls do get respect. But he did say, in fairness, that he believes they are, and I think he emphasised, particularly within the Naas club, that they really are set up there with the one club mantra there, and the Camogie team and the ladies footballers within the club are treated just the exact same as the hurlers and the senior footballers as well, and that's the way that he said that it really should be approached, and they get the same access to facilities, whether it's the gym, the pitch, the nutritionist, the S&C, and all that is within that club there. So yeah, I suppose Naas in many ways are an example for others to follow, and I suppose even outside the club there into the county board and all that sort of stuff as well, in terms of respecting the ladies players. But you couldn't have watched that Camogie match and not come off the field there respecting the Naas players. As I said, it was a monumental effort that they put in, so it just shows that the training and everything else that they do to get up to that level is just the same, demands just the same amount of commitments as the men, and they absolutely deserve every bit of respect that the men get.
Very best of luck then to Naas, to Clane, to Ballina, and to Naas Camogie in the respective Leinster Championships next weekend. There will be coverage, as I said, on the KFM and on Clubber for the intermediate and senior hurling games, and you will read all about all 4 games in the Kildare Nationalist next week. Things are going well over in Doha for the under-17s, Ger, but it went well also for the Club Kildare under-20 soccer team as well last weekend. They won the Shield.
Yeah, just the second piece of silverware the club have won since 2019, their first games, their first year. So yeah, absolutely, it was a great way to round it off, and it was actually the same venue where they won their previous final a few years ago against Cork City, but this time up against that lone town. Yeah, Mark Canavan, truth, was the hero in the end. He got the winner 5 minutes from time, and he's been a player who's got a lot of important goals for that team right throughout the year. And they had goalkeeper A. Conway back in the side as well. He was actually the only player who was involved in that 2019 side that won as well. And he actually spent some time over in England this year and wasn't involved as much with the team. He was over studying in England, but was back in goal for this game. But he actually got sent off just after the hour mark. Athlone then had a player themselves sent off 7 or 8 minutes later. So both teams played the last 20 minutes or so with 10 players. And in the end, it was Canavan's goal that found the net and won the game for Kildare, or Club Kildare there 3-2. Yeah, big win.
Yeah, and then the Monasterevin ladies team, they won the cup and did very well in that particular one.
Yeah, absolutely. A strong second half. Yeah, Derry Rovers were the opponents. Yeah, strong, closely fought battle in the first half, 1-1 at half time, but Monasterevin got 3 goals in the second half and pulled away, and also a victory there earlier in the day in the Shield final for Allen Wood Celtic as well. Against Salon Celtic 2-1, they won the Shield there as well. So for victory for them. Yeah, those trophies racking up in the KDFL. They'll have their awards night at the end of this month. It's always a gala event in the KD. That'll be a big weekend there for everybody, because I think the Kildare GAA awards are on the following night as well. So, but yeah, lots of trophies to be dished out of that KDFL awards. But just when we're stuck on soccer, Pat, as well, just to mention Club Kildare as well, because maybe it's tied in with the Irish under-17s as well. But Club Kildare as well, they were absolutely thrilled that Igor Vasilin made his Shamrock Rovers debut. A player who only left Club Kildare and would have played with that under-20 team up to the transfer window in July. But he left and obviously joined Shamrock Rovers. He'd been on the bench there a couple of times. And yeah, he made his full debut there against Sligo Rovers in the final round of the league, and some great pictures of him celebrating with the trophy afterwards. He really enjoyed it, and obviously Michael Noonan as well, who we might speak about now as well. But he delayed his trip to Qatar to pick up that league trophy. He obviously played a much bigger part than Igor in Shamrock Rovers' success and helped him along the way. And 6 goals I think he scored in the league. Yeah, and a really impressive performance from such a young player.
Yeah, well, of course, the Noonan namesakes are doing well for the Republic of Ireland under-17s at the moment over in Doha, and well done to them. But it's a big weekend for 2 Kildare men as well in the FAI Cup, the Sports Direct FAI Cup. Rory Feely is on the field, and Ger Nash is the manager of Cork City as they face Shamrock Rovers. Interesting match. Not a great season for Cork City, relegated to Division 1, but they've been flying in the cup.
Yeah, absolutely, and had that outstanding victory against St. Pat's in the semi-finals. So yeah, they'll go in as underdogs, but they probably like that. Rory Feely has experience of playing in the cup final, and he's scoring in the cup final in 21 for balls against St. Pat's before they lost in penalties, I think, that day as well. So yeah, Cork will win. I mean, Shamrock Rovers are over in Athens there today. They play in Europe this week, so they have a lot on their schedule, and they have been stuttering in the final few weeks. That it appeared a month ago that they might have that league wrapped up well before the end of October, but hit a bad run of form, hit their worst run of form there, and only got over the line then with a win against Galway midweek before losing against Sligo last weekend. And as I said, they have that European game midweek as well. So there's a lot on their plate. Michael Noonan obviously won't be involved. He's away in Qatar, and yeah, Cork City will sneak under the radar there, and yeah, who knows what could happen in a cup final. But it's always a great occasion, the Aviva Stadium. It's the showpiece event for Irish soccer, and normally gets a good crowd, a good atmosphere, and yeah, it'll be a big day up there on Sunday.
Yeah, of course, Rory Feely could be playing for a tie, but for the fact that he's playing professional football. Ger Nash, he could be playing for Confey because he was a very good underage player with Confey. Then he went across the water, particularly to Ipswich, and but suffered an injury. But he credits Mick McCarthy with making him what he is, and I think Mick has already sent a message of goodwill to the Cork City team, and particularly to Ger.
Yeah, well, if he does half as well as Mick's managerial career, he'll do well. Cork have had such a strange season, yeah, to end up relegated and the cup final doesn't happen too often. There's definitely been kind of Jekyll and Hyde in terms of the league form compared with the cup form. But yeah, they've had a kind of a good run, good preparation for this now to look at this. And as I said, Sean McGraw said have a lot on their plate. So yeah, it'll be a tighter game than the league table will suggest. Top and bottom in the league table would suggest a very one-sided game. I certainly don't think it'll be like that on Sunday.
In rugby, more woe for Naas, but Newbridge march on.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, another kind of narrow defeat there for Naas. I think they only won one. Is it one lost 4? And I think maybe only one of them has really been kind of a big beating. They've been very close thereabouts, but not quite getting the results at the moment. So frustration for them. And yeah, Newbridge an excellent win, and that sets them up nicely for a big local derby on Sunday. It's a big day for Kildare. They have a reception lunch then, and they're honouring a team of players from 50 years ago, and they have a banquet lunch there before the game to prepare them there as well. And Kildare and Newbridge both having good seasons in that Division 2A, I think it is, so in Leinster. So yeah, it'll be a big local derby, and Newbridge are going there in good form. They actually meet as well in the Hosey Cup final. That had to be refixed as well, so that'll be sometime perhaps approaching Christmas. So there's 2 league games between Kildare and Newbridge and that Hosey Cup final. So a nice little rivalry building there between the 2 teams from just around the edge of the Curragh.
Play them all under the one heading. Just have one match and have all 3 cups and points for that. Basketball, a win at last for Liffey Celtics under their new manager Hilary Nepsianawa. A good win for them on last weekend, and an important win, Ger.
Glad you took on that name, because I would have just referred to him as Hillary, the new Liffey Celtics coach. But yeah, very important for them. Kind of, we talked about Naas Rugby there as well. So Liffey Celtics have had a long winless streak, and particularly when you're there under the management of a new head coach, it was very important to get that win. And just by a single point in the end, they held on for a victory. But yeah, definitely to get that win under the belt was a big one, and I suppose as well big for them as well that there are a couple of American players starting to settle in now and showing what they can do. And Brooke, sorry, I can't think of her second name, excuse me, just off the top of my head, but yeah, she was the top scorer in the game.
Brooke
Kane, sorry, yeah, and she had an outstanding game, and it was a big factor in that win. So yeah, definitely now once that first win is under the belt, hopefully they can push on.
And it seems as if the Irish international Sorka Tiernan and Anya O'Connor are back to form as well, and when they are on form, then Liffey Celtics are on form too.
Yeah, and particularly Sorka, she missed a couple of those early games through injury, so it's probably only really getting back to full fitness now. And yeah, an international level player. She is the standout player for Liffey Celtics for the last couple of years, and a key player. So yeah, definitely getting her back to full fitness will obviously be a big help for them.
Yeah, I haven't heard of Kildare Guilders and BC League Slip before until I saw the reports in the Nationalists this week, Ger.
No, and the Thai Archers are another team as well playing at that level, and I have to be honest, I don't know much about them as well, but I'll certainly endeavour to get over to now the next coming months once things are quieting down elsewhere, so give an opportunity to maybe focus on some more of these sports like those. And yeah, there is kind of obviously a league below the national level league that a number of Kildares are competing in, and both those teams you mentioned had good wins in their national cup as well, so hopefully they can progress and keep going, and we'll hear plenty more about them in the future.
More great coverage from Perry Williams on athletics this week in the Nationals as well, including Terry Shanley shining at the Dublin City Marathon.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, Perry does a great job. Yeah, there's a huge Kildare contingent up at that Dublin Marathon, and our own Johnny Doyle, of course, as well.
That's right.
As well, just with 3 minutes 15 he did. That's a time that is a lot of athletes would love to be able to call their marathon time. So yeah, he's still going strong.
3 minutes 15, just a world record, Ger.
3 hours 15.
Sorry. I'll go back to mute again. Sorry.
Johnny could do it in 3 minutes. He could.
Yeah, if anybody could, it could be Johnny. But yeah obviously, the Kildare contingent there, the Dublin Marathon is a huge thing for those athletes who train so hard for it. And you know, you'd hear about GAA players how much work and effort they put in, and they don't get the thanks for it. But training for a marathon is just ridiculous. The work you have to do, and although some of them do have running groups and stuff as well, which obviously helps. A lot of it is done by yourself as well. So it's unthinkable to me how anybody could do that. But yeah, they are some of the most dedicated people you could meet in terms of what they put in for the sport.
There's a strong rumour that yourself and Seamus Dillon are training already for next year's marathon, but we'll quash that rumour very quickly.
Yeah, well, I think that 3 minutes 15.
Go on, Seamus.
In the car, Pat.
Well, speaking of an athlete who's very busy at the moment, we have to say Kelsey Leonard, best of luck to Kelsey, because she has her third fight this Saturday night in the Devonish in Belfast. She's already beaten Ciara Carter of England, stoppage in the second round. Then she beat the Milak Zenek, the Hungarian, over 4 rounds a couple of weeks ago. Now she's taken on another Hungarian, Beta Dudek. She won her last fight over 10 rounds, and she's had 4 knockouts as well. So she will be a difficult one. But Kelsey Leonard seems to be up for those sort of difficult ones, and she's a superb athlete and well trained by Niall Barrett at Unit 3 in Naas.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, we said, I think a few weeks ago, that the important thing for Kelsey was to stay busy, and that's the most difficult thing for any young boxer, and particularly a young female boxer, it seems, is to get those competitive fights and to get that kind of progression in fights as well, because you don't want to fight the same standard of opponent every time. And it appears that the last 2 fights Kelsey has fought, she stepped up in opponents, and it looks like it's going to be another step up in level again. So hopefully she can again show what she can do. And yeah, you see she's very well looked after and very well coached out there. And there's actually a link to the Irish under-17 team, because Orla White, who does a lot of training out there in that Unit 3 and is involved with the Shamrock Rovers team. Her brother Evan is actually in Qatar at the moment as a performance coach with the Irish under-17s, along with physio Mark Cornish as well. So a couple of Kildare men in the background as well. But, you know, hopefully Kelsey can keep that winning run going and definitely get 3, and it'd be great to even get another fight in there before Christmas, because they just want to keep her out as busy as possible, and to doing a Niall Barrett and everyone else there at the moment is doing a very good job with that so far.
Is it an awful pity, Tommy, that we can't have a venue in Kildare where Kelsey could have fought, and Eric Donovan could have fought, and the Diva himself, Gary Cully, could have fought, and there were others as well, Caitlin down in Kildare Boxing Club. We've no venue. We've no venue. No. It's a pity, Tommy, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Well, you see a lot of money going into other facilities in Kildare. I mean, we covered on this podcast, slightly obscure sport there a couple of months ago, and how much was going into Shay Givens, the paddle board,
tennis,
or the paddle tennis.
Yeah,
like, look at the money that was going into that. I mean, absolutely fair play, and it was brilliant what they were doing, and obviously they were trying to introduce it and stuff like that. But that was a huge structure, and it was massive for something like that. Whereas if we had some kind of an arena, and there's places, you know, there are places around the county that could probably accommodate it, but a dedicated kind of centre. Yeah. You know, we need to be selfish in Kildare, and we need to look at other counties and think, like, you know, we could have a mini version of a national arena, be it basketball or boxing or whatever. So.
The other thing that was pointed out to me when I raised it when I was sports editor was the fact that insurance was a colossal thing, and that was putting off a lot of promoters in and around.
Professional boxing went through some very dark times there, obviously tied into incidents in Dublin and everything else. And when somebody like Eric Donovan, who was as amiable a face as you could find in boxing and was as popular a fighter around all the Kildare, if he couldn't quite pull it off, you think it's hard for anybody to do it. I know Eric was very, very close on a couple of occasions to securing fights in and around Kildare, and he did everything possible to make sure that he could have fought in his home county, but it wasn't to be. And you know, if he couldn't have done it, it's hard to imagine how somebody will. But at the same time, I think that landscape in professional boxing in Ireland is changing significantly and changing for the better, and hopefully maybe someday in the future we'll see the likes of Kelsey and others. Sarah Murphy's another young boxer coming through there as well, so hopefully we'll see the likes of them fighting in their own county, because Kildare's some great boxers down through the years, some wonderful boxers at amateur and professional level, so it would be great to see them fighting in their home county.
Well, one man who has done very well was, of course, Dylan Brown McMonigal, the jockey who won the Breeders' Cup on Saturday night, and then was home to pick up the Champion Jockey Award on Sunday in the Curragh. Of course, he's sponsored by Amanda Turns and our team at Barberstown Castle. And Seamus, Barberstown Castle are very much to the fore in sponsoring races. I know they've been involved in the Curragh, they've been involved in Naas as well, and now they're involved in supporting Dylan Brown McMonigal.
Yeah, Amanda and the team over there have certainly put their shoulder to the wheel when it comes to racing. Punches down to Curragh and Naas, they've done it all. Their sponsorship, another Group 2 race on the Curragh during Derby weekend or Oaks weekend that they sponsor as well. So that's a big outlay for them. But it's taking on the likes of someone like Dylan Brown McMonigal, a 22-year-old. I think you're right, something like 95 winners this year to be champion jockey at such a young age. Some will say he had a strong base behind him in the line of Joseph O'Brien, but he rode a lot of winners for other trainers as well, including Willie McCreary on the Curragh. And it's lovely to see a young lad like that. I suppose Colin Keane was a victim of picking up a big job for the team. The name escapes me now, but picking up that job had him in England a good bit of the time, and then Billy Lee broke his collarbone at the wrong time of the year, so that was a problem for that. Both of those lads weren't maybe able to finish out the season the way they would have liked, but certainly great to see someone like Dylan Brown McMonigal coming to the fore at such a young age, and seems to be a terrible nice young lad as well.
Back to rugby quickly, Ger. Nice to see that Ty Burns' red card was rescinded, but it seemed to be a stupid decision in the first place.
Yeah, God, it was really unfortunate for it to happen so early in the game, and it obviously was a huge impact on Ty Byrne, but also on the Irish team as well. It kind of just disrupted their flow very early on, although they did get their try, I suppose, when they were down to the 14 players. But yeah, just a big blow for Ty himself as well, is to come back in. He'd only played, I think, the previous week, getting back previous couple of weeks, and getting back in after the Lions tour. So yeah, disappointing for the Irish team as well. The overall performance wasn't fantastic, and certainly it dropped away alarmingly so in the last 20 minutes or there. So yeah, it's interesting to see what they can do in the next couple of weeks. Hopefully get back to some sort of form against Japan at the weekend, and Australia then in 2 weeks as well. So some big tough tests. But we heard from Seamus there last week as well, so maybe we need to see more of Sam Pendergast on the pitch as well to help the Irish team and get through. But yeah, good. Jamie Osborne obviously got another run out there as well and playing very well, and kind of cementing his position now, almost the first choice fullback for the Irish team. It's great to see for him too.
Certainly is. Finally then, Tommy, what are you looking forward to for the weekend?
Obviously the Naas game. I mean, it's just huge. I mean, it's what they build towards every year. Because they know, like, they're confident to get out of Kildare. They've been knocking on the door for the last couple of years. It's a big occasion, big for the county. It's really, really big for the county. In the football, like, we have our three clubs that go into the three championships. We saw how impressive a tie were. The whole county now will get behind a tie. The whole county will get behind Sallins, behind Grange, because we're hoping they're all going to go deep. So we're hoping the same thing for the hurlers of Naas in Carlow, because a lot of people in South Kildare, you might be only 10 or 15 minutes from Carlow as well on Sunday to head over to that match, because the price of these Leinster tickets is really good as well. In fairness, a lot of it is really, really good. You saw a tenner there for that double header in St. Conleth's Park last week. It was brilliant. It really was. It was fantastic. So that's me.
Yeah, and finally, Ger, you have some great photographs from the Carbery GAA centenary celebrations, the centenary ball on last Saturday night in Lawlers of Naas. A great night had by all, and they recognised the 85 team, the last team so far that has won the Kildare Championship for Carbery.
Yeah, Tommy has an example of it there. Yeah. Great night. Obviously, it was hosted by a fantastic MC as well, who pulled the night together, who had a marathon sprint to get home in time for it. But yeah, fantastic night by all accounts, and the 100th year anniversary is something to really treasure for the club. And they have many special memories. I'm sure to look back and you see some of the famous names that were there in the paper, like Pat Mangan, and because even closer to my ear, Terry Rossiter and people like that, Gary Mangan as well. So yeah, fantastic to see such a turnout for Carbery. They're one of Kildare's, I suppose, most traditional clubs. You say the 1985 team, their last senior championship team, they're probably a little bit away from that at the moment, but they live and dream and hope, I suppose, that someday they'll return to the top of the pile in Kildare. And they have a fantastic setup out there, lovely clubhouse, lovely pitch out there as well. So they have a lot out there going for them, and I'm sure they have another 100 years or so still to go in them. They're a fantastic club, and I hope they all enjoyed their night. And as I said, they had a great MC pulling it all together for them.
That's it for another week.
I have a question, Pat. Because it came up to me. It was brought up to me last night in Hawkfield, randomly in a conversation.
Mangard Park.
What is Mangard Park? I apologies everybody in Mangard Plus. What's the oldest club in Kildare?
Is it Clane?
Oldest active club in Kildare. So I might have said Clane. I would have had that in my head. Obviously an iteration of Sarsfields, maybe Rosebery, I don't know. But the man who's beside me is fairly sure it's Milltown.
I was going to say that. Yeah,
I think Milltown have on their crest 1886.
Yeah,
Moorfield have on their crest 1888. It's one now that well, obviously I'll text them before this is published, but Richard Commons now will be able to.
Yeah, where's Richard when we need him? But I've something in the back of my mind that whatever research I was doing for a clubber game or whatever, that it came up that Milltown last year, when I was doing it, were the oldest club in Kildare. Yeah, so there you are. So you could very well be right. And answers on the back of a fiver, and dropped into Tommy O'Connell in Annie Terrace in Kildare.
It wasn't me. It was a Milltown man that said that Milltown were the oldest club. I didn't know. So I just
don't say the answers.
I hope he's listening to this now and he gets clarification, because he was very convinced. So
yeah. As I said, the answer, the correct answer on the back of a fiver, dropped into Tommy O'Connell and Annie Terrace in Kildare over the next week or so. That's it, lads. I think have we batted the breeze on everything. Best of luck to the 4 Kildare teams taking part in Leinster competitions this week: Naas, Clane, Ballina and the Naas Camogie team. We'll wrap it up. Thanks very much again to Ger, to Tommy, and to Seamus. I'm Pat Costello, and join us next week for another edition of The Short Grass.